recently in Canada, the media has been talking a lot about a law in Russia that bans bans homosexuality, or not bans homosexuality, bans the promotion of homosexuality, or promotion of homosexuality to children, or something to that effect. I haven't read the actual law. I don't know exactly what the law says, um, it's been criticized a lot in the Canadian media, especially in the run-up to the Winter Olympics in Russia that are coming up in Russia. I'm not sure what the United States media has been saying, or the British media has been saying about this law, but I find it very hypocritical for Canada or Western countries to criticize this law in Russia when just recently they've passed a law in Britain against pornography, where they automatically ban block pornography on the internet, and people have to specifically opt in to get to have access to pornographic sites. If you listen to the politicians in Russia, and the politicians in the United Kingdom, and the politicians in Canada and wherever else who support the law against internet pornography, and the politicians in Russia who support the law against non-traditional sexual relationships, both of them will have the same justification for the law. So both the Russian politicians and the British politicians will both say that they made this law in order to protect children. That is their justification. They both have the same justification. So basically these laws are actually more or less the same, even though they target different things. They're basically targeting sexual things that a large portion of their population sees as harmful or undesirable, or whatever the case may be. So, since Western countries are passing these laws to block pornography, then they really have no business criticizing another country for passing a law to block children from being exposed to sexual things that they don't agree with, because there's not really that much of a difference between those two laws. It's very hypocritical for these Western people to basically want to pass a certain law in their own country where they're restricting legal sexual behavior, which is looking at pornography, and then they want to go to another country. They want to go and tell some other country what to do, just because in a lot of Western countries, homosexuality is, protected. Nobody can say anything bad about it. You're not allowed to say anything bad about it, and it's whatever, protected and promoted in Western countries. Just because it's protected and promoted in Western countries, it doesn't mean everybody in the world doesn't mean that it's going to be protected and promoted everywhere else in the world. And the other thing is, when they make this law against pornography, they're not going to they make a law against internet pornography. In all likelihood, they will not just block internet pornography. They will not only block pornography. They will also censor anything on the internet that goes against, that contradicts anything that they don't want people to see on the internet. They can censor it. Just like certain repressive regimes that they're always criticizing in the West, they can do the same thing in these Western countries, just using pornography as a red herring, or as a scapegoat or an excuse for them to be able to extend censorship over the internet to censor non-pornographic material that they don't agree with or they don't want people seeing, or that contradicts the dominant narrative that because the government or the ruling people want to have a monopoly over what people hear and see, or what people have access to, or the ideas that people have access to. They don't want anybody else to have free speech and be able to say what they want to say. And if they pass a law against pornography, they can use that as an excuse to start censoring, to start having blanket censorship of the internet. Okay, the other thing is, if people want to, I agree that there shouldn't be pornography children shouldn't have access to pornography, but who's responsible for making sure, for policing that? It should be parents who are responsible for that, not the government. The government doesn't, when an infant wants to drink milk, they don't suck on the government's breast. They suck on their mother's breast. And basically, parents are responsible for taking care of children, not the government. The government does a very bad job. It's already been proven what the results of governments raising children is, because a large proportion of the people who grew up in government care end up in prison, end up in penitentiaries, or they end up being prostitutes on the street. A lot of the underage prostitutes end up or come from are under government care, are wards. A lot of them are wards of the state. So that's the government can't. The government does a very poor job of taking care of people. Everything the government touches turns to dirt, turns to garbage. So you don't want the government raising children. Let parents take it is the job of parents to take care of their children and stop their children and make sure their children are not exposed to pornography or exposed to other things they shouldn't be exposed to. Because first of all, a lot of these internet devices, a lot of children will have all these. Children have all kinds of internet devices nowadays, and it really isn't necessary. They don't need an iPad. They don't need all those cell phones with internet access and all that type of stuff. They don't need all that stuff. But the parents, if a child is 12 years old or 13 and they have a cell phone with internet and iPad and all this stuff, the parents are the ones who are paying for it, obviously, because the kid can't get that on their own. So the parents should be the ones who are responsible for making sure that they're not taking steps to make sure the kids are not accessing pornography on those devices, if that's what they want to do. And finally, I heard some British politician woman, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, a British woman who was a politician, she was talking about how she thought that, complaining that now that today young children are getting access to pornography at very young ages. And I thought it was funny because maybe she doesn't realize it, but children had access to pornography in elementary school and junior high school and high school back before the internet, before there was this widespread high-speed internet access that made it relatively easy to get porn online. Kids were passing around dirty magazines or videos, VHS, probably DVDs later on. And so it's not like this is a new phenomenon where kids are getting porn or kids can only get porn on the internet. That's just not true. young children were, or let's say maybe 12-year-olds or 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, they were watching porn. They were looking at porn before the internet. They were getting porn before the internet. And if the internet wasn't around, they would still be getting porn. So there you go. But if people want their children to be online, but they don't want them to see porn, then they're responsible for doing that, for blocking access themselves, not the government.